Conveyancing is the name given to the legal process of passing title from the seller to the buyer. The conveyancing process involves the conveyancer going through a number of checks and searches, firstly to ensure that the seller actually owns the property that they're purporting to sell, and also that the buyer takes the property free from any problems. A normal conveyancing transaction usually takes between 8 to 10 weeks, although this will depend very much on whether there is a chain of properties involved. If there are no problems and no chain, one should be looking to exchange contracts within 4 weeks of receiving the draft contract from the seller's solicitor. After exchange of contracts, completion usually takes place within 1 to 2 weeks. Yes is the answer. You most definitely do need a survey. If you're buying with the aid of a mortgage, the mortgage company will instruct a valuer to carry out a valuation. This will not be very detailed, and in many circumstances you won't even get to see a copy. We strongly recommend either a structural survey or a home buyer's report. The caveat that you must remember is the buyer beware. Once you've bought the property and moved in, if a problem materialises later on, you may not be able to do anything about it. Conveyancing prices vary, and they vary depending upon the price of the property that you're buying. If you were to give me a call on 01702 221948, we can give you either a quote over the telephone, or alternatively we can send you a fixed quote by email. This will not only set out the legal costs, but will also set out the disbursements and other costs associated with house selling and buying. In particular, you've got to remember about stamp duty. Stamp duty starts at property prices over $125,000 and is 1% of the purchase price. This then increases to 3% for property prices over $250,000, 4% for property prices over $500,000, and 5% for properties priced over £1 million. If you would like to come in and see us, we'd welcome you. We could talk through the papers in person, and I could ask you to sign the contract and other documents whilst you're in the office. However, in most cases, it's not necessary to come into the office at all. Correspondence can be dealt with by way of email or letter or telephone. Absolutely, communication is the most important thing in the conveyancing transaction. You should be able to speak to the person dealing with your file or one member of their team during working hours. And remember, we try to answer all incoming calls within 90 seconds and return all telephone messages within 2 hours. Conveyancing is more expensive for leasehold properties because of a number of things. Firstly, the title is split between the leasehold title and the freehold title. The conveyancer will need to look at the lease and will also need to speak to both the landlord and his managing agents to determine certain information about ground rent, service charge, buildings insurance, what work has been carried out to the property in the past and what work needs to be carried out in the future. The conveyancer will need to check the lease to make sure the obligations imposed upon the landlord and the tenant are correct. Just because a property has changed hands many times, it does not necessarily mean that the lease is in the correct format. If you have any questions yourself, please do not hesitate to contact either me, Matt Clark, or one of my team on 01702 221948 or at matthew.clark@marcusbaum.com.